So what we're going to do today is talk about some of the mobile technology, how we can access content either as an end user or even as a constituent to kind of get access into the system. So I have a few slides, so we're going to talk about a few things with that, and then I'll actually demo a couple things. I have an iPad, and then I'll use an Android phone as well. And we'll be able just to show you a couple things, a couple scenarios of how we can access content, interact with systems, and view data from these mobile devices, so without actually having to be sitting at a workstation in an office. Okay? So just a couple things to get started. There are the top three trends now going on kind of within government today. You're going to probably recognize these terms, right? The cloud is a huge term now. Everybody's talking about software as a service or a cloud model where you're going to access different things over the internet. Okay? What goes along with that has to be some kind of change in security. We have to think of things a little differently. Not everything is inside the building that we're managing and controlling, right? Things are going outside the building. That allows us now to leverage a lot of things, get content, but we also have to be conscious of how we're getting it and how we're accessing it. So that leads us to now mobile computing is kind of the last one here on my list, and that's the one we're actually going to focus on today. We're going to talk a little bit about this mobile computing, why it's important, why we need to adopt, and some of the things we need to do, kind of a mobile strategy of how we go about kind of implementing something like this. A couple fun facts here to kind of get us going. For those of you who don't know, the world population has tipped over 7 billion now, and in correlation there's over 6 billion subscriptions with mobile devices in the world today. Okay? So just looking at that number alone, that's over almost 87% of the entire world population uses a mobile in some kind of capacity. Okay? 45% of American adults here have a smartphone. So not only just mobile, which is, cellular phone calls and texting, but now it's data, accessing the internet and interacting with information out there. Okay. In addition to that, people always talk about the older generation not adopting the technology. Well, they're not the top, but they're on the list at least as adopting and moving to smartphones. Okay? So as our keynote speaker talked about technology, and he kind of puts himself in that older crowd, but after a couple meetings with Judge Foster and I sat down and talked about different apps and things we had on our iPads. So we were having these off conversations about that, and he's a very avid user. He does buy a lot of the technology, and he wants to learn it. So that demographic is really growing fast and adopting to this change because they can't avoid it. My dad always tells me, I'm too old, I don't want to learn a computer. I never had to, I don't want to do it now. But a lot of people can't say that anymore. Even everywhere you go, you want to go to eat at a restaurant, what's the first thing you do? You're going to go to their website and check out the menu. So everybody has to have a website, everybody has to have internet access somehow. And this is one I find very interesting. How many of you have 5,000 emails in your inbox today or more, right? How many of you have 20 messages you haven't even opened yet? It's been 2 or 3 days now, and you might not even get to all of them. Okay, this is a very common trend. Email is just so standard now. People kind of push it off, say, oh, I'll look at that later, I'll look at that later. I have a lot of them to go through right now. I got to kind of prioritize and get there. But a text message, though you might not get an instant response, statistically, everybody views a text message within 10 minutes when it comes in. They at least look at it, and they know what's going on. So this is another avenue that people don't really think about, but it's a great way to be notified. If you want to contact a judge off hours, you really want to send him an email, maybe a text message is a better option. Okay? And some other ones here I put on here just to lighten the mood is this is the year where actually mobile devices will exceed our population. Okay? They come out very fast. Just in my career here with smartphones, I'm on my 4th one since I started out about 5 or 6 years ago on the smartphone world. So there's a lot of them coming out very quick, and people, once they go to a smartphone, obviously they're never going to go back, and they're going to keep advancing and buying the next one that comes out. People talk about job loss, but just so you know, the mobile technology is doing a lot of benefit in the world as well. So you see the apps now, thousands and thousands of these apps on these stores that you can download, a lot of them free and others for nominal fees. So, I mean, just alone, 500,000 jobs in the U.S. alone is a significant amount that this new technology is bringing to our world. Okay? So though we don't really use travel agents and some of these other things as much as we do, there are other jobs that are becoming available. So, you know, when one door closes, another one does really open. Okay? And this is another one. 84% of the people say they couldn't go a day without their device. So if you're like me, I do it, you know, keys, wallet, phone, I walk out the house, right? If any of them those miss the mark, I stop, I go back, and I find those three things. So I can't leave without taking my phone with me. I just want to take the dog for a walk, where's my phone? I can't take the dog unless I have my phone. My wife says, why do you need your phone to take the dog for a walk? I couldn't answer it, but I just do, right? There is no answer. So it's an interesting fact. This one here is not me, but some of you in this room may be this way, where your cell phone has to be next to you when you're sleeping even, right? Do you guys charge it in your bedroom, right? Okay. So it's an interesting fact, but it's true. It's becoming a part of our everyday lives, and we can't get away from it. And I'm guilty of this one too, right? You ever been in a room and the lights are dark? What do you use, right? The backlight from your phone, right? It's in your hand. You know you have it with you. So you start relying on things that you didn't even think about, okay? There are flashlight apps, so those are better. Take those instead of just the screen. But it's just an interesting fact. You know you have that. You're kind of relying on it, right? It's always part of you. And this one here, though it's a little gross, it's true. There are now more people who have access to a phone than a toothbrush even, okay? Just the way the culture and the way society is developing all over the world. Even some of these, as you would call, third world countries are adopting technology more than they are personal hygiene. Okay? So I said this before, I'll say this again. Obviously, you probably get it by now, but mobile computing isn't a trend. It's not something that's a fad. It's going to come and go. It's a reality. It's part of our lives. And it's just going to keep advancing at a very rapid rate. So we're going to have to adopt, and we can't stay around and wait for other technologies to catch up to us. We really got to kind of keep going, because they're going to pass us up. By the time we adopt one, it's already going to be outdated, right? There's an old commercial where a guy was at the store. He bought his brand new computer, right? He puts it in his car. It's the model number 3. He just got it. He's driving home. He sees the billboard change instantly to say Model 4 just released. And he didn't even get it home from the store yet. Okay? So that's kind of how fast things really do change. So there's a strategy going on today within government. Okay? So what does this really mean? It's just kind of a couple points in here that to make mobile and accessing content from these types of devices a reality, there's some things that have to happen. A lot of IT considerations. So some of these are with the back-end data infrastructure. Okay? You heard Judge mention today the AS400, the mainframe systems are still around today, but some of these aren't really conducive to that kind of technology. So we really got to start thinking about moving platforms onto something a little more standard so that we can access it from any type of device. And the other kind of main point here is that instead of trying to kind of cater to every device out there, we need to get more centralized with what we're doing. So it's available, a little more generic in how it's working, so that all the devices can access it without having to change for every single one that's out there. Because if you had to do that, the new devices come out every few months. You're never going to keep up. You're always going to be behind. If you can kind of generalize things and make them available for anybody on any device, then you're going to change the way people can access your data. Okay? So when you're trying to put a strategy in place, there's a few things. We talked kind of about that, the uniformity, right? To be able to access the data, the information that's available, there's some things that have to happen, right? The famous word, upgrade. Everyone's faced with that all the time. But it's a reality, and we got to keep upgrading to make sure that we can handle the amount of requests you're going to get and the type of technology that's going to be accessing it. Okay? And that's going to mean leveraging some industry standard protocols. Right? So we kind of have to move away maybe from some of these mainframe type systems and things and move to your relational databases, your standardized systems that a lot of devices can access natively. Okay? Things with our access portals as well have to be conducive to leveraging from different devices. So for a while people were trying to design 2 different websites, one for standard computers and one for smartphone devices. So when I'd go there it would show me things a little differently. They've kind of went away with that. So instead of using things like Flash and all of those that are kind of going away now, we have to move more into centralized and standardized protocols like the HTML5 and things like that, which all devices will support. Okay? So with that, there's obviously security concerns. So a lot of customers here might not have any outside access. You have to be inside the county buildings to be able to access that data. By doing that, now we need to employ web servers, maybe additional application servers, some things you might not have had to worry about before, but now you have to start thinking about getting those in place. And with those, obviously now you have to open up different ports and things, so there's some firewall considerations that have to be brought into the mix. And with that, encryption and things like that, so VPN tunnels. So a lot of people have been using VPN access for probably 10, 15 years now. That technology just keeps growing and is still kind of the preferred method for secure access for users into the kind of the corporate back end. The other one here, interesting, is to bring your own device. So a lot of people are talking about, well, we need to purchase a bunch of devices and give them out to our workforce. But really the trend is not kind of going that direction. It's to let them bring in what they have. Let them use their own. So first of all, there's no cost to the county because you're not buying it for them, okay, in that regard. And if you have the platform and the security in place, any of these devices can access it the same way. So you don't have to change things for each of these. You just kind of set it up once and they can all access it. But that could bring in some other support considerations because now you may have people calling you saying, I can't access it from my phone. What do I need to do? So your IT staff needs to be up on that as well so they know how to handle those particular types of calls and things that they might be getting now. Okay, so what are the real gains of kind of allowing or granting remote access? Number one is it is real time now. So I can get access to information whenever I need to get it, right? If it's 3 in the morning and I need to put in my time off request because I'm not planning to come in tomorrow, right? I can submit that at any time. And there's really no geographical restrictions anymore. Once you have connection, essentially anywhere that you can get a connection, anywhere in the world, you can fulfill those requests or check data or fill out a form. The main point is once you have your data, your device, you always have your data. So once it's kind of can be paired up to anything that you carry with you, you'll be able to have that information with you to be able to make those decisions without having to wait until you get back into the office. So productivity, these are probably have already been crossing your mind, but the points are here. Obviously, if I can get more access to data and faster access, I can obviously do more. Okay? And optimize time. So this is a big one. I mean, those of you who do some traveling or if you need to take your kids to a soccer game, those types of things, right? If I need to go to the dentist, I have to leave work early, go to the dentist, and that takes a big portion of your day, even if it's right down the street from where you work. But being able to access this information and being able to do some of those things you need to do while you're waiting for the dentist, because I don't know about you, but my appointment's at 10, I get there at 10, I've never gone in at 10, right? I'm sitting there for at least 20 minutes or more. So that's 20 minutes of essentially wasting my time. I got there on time and I have nothing to do except wait for them. But now if I can go in there and approve a request or fill out a form or start researching a document, I can do so and I can actually use that time more effectively. Okay? And with allowing people to use their own devices, they're already kind of comfortable with that device. Maybe not on day 1 or day 2, but once they've been playing around with that device for a little while, they know where to go. They know how to turn the Wi-Fi on, right? They know how to change the settings. They know how to move their email around and move it to another folder and some of these things. So you don't really have to train them on how to use a device, okay? You just need to allow them to get to that information. And that convenience now, where I can do it whenever I want, wherever I want, I'd be more apt to do something. I say, well, it's easy. I can go in and do it real quick. And then tomorrow morning, I know I can start on something else. So it allows them to do things at their own time. So flex time has been a concept for a while now. This kind of leads right into that. It allows them to do it on their time when they have the time to do it. There could be different pockets of time that they could be doing something and want to be doing something. So by giving them access from a device, they may actually do it at that point. So with the infrastructure, people talk about security concerns. It's always been a concern with the internet, right? People ask me about Well, I'm a little leery about putting in credit card information when I buy something online, right? I don't know what happens to it. Well, I tell people, well, let's say I bought something online from Toys R Us, I put in my credit card, right? And somebody else goes into the store and gives them their credit card. I said, guess what? The data they just swiped from your card and what I typed in goes to the exact same system in the back end. Okay? They're not storing it in the store there. They're storing it in their data center. So your data is transferring over that same internet whether you know about it or not. So there's a lot of different security measures in place today. So one of those things we need to talk about is when the data is there, we can actually secure it. We know who's accessing it now. We know the IPs of what's accessing it. We know the types of device. We know the logins being used. It never leaves our system. They're just getting a kind of a window into that data now, which is if we have to make offline copies, paper, do we know how secure paper is, right? I don't really have to tell you guys. If a piece of paper floats away, who knows where it's gone? Who knows who's viewed it? With this data, you know exactly who's viewed it, when they viewed it, and for how long. Okay, so there's some improvements there to be had because now I can control every aspect of this. And that traceability, that full audit trail, we know everything that's taken place because they're still using their credentials to authenticate themselves in the system. So we know the users and the access still applies no matter where they are or where they're accessing that data from. So when it comes down to it, mobile data actually costs less to access because they're using their own devices. So there's not additional hardware that has to be put in place. You don't have to work on some kind of security concerns and employ different devices and things to lock things down. So you may have seen these. These are some of the ways that data can be accessed outside of a traditional computer. Okay, so in regards to OnBase, these top 5 have an actual mobile application that can be acquired to leverage that information in the OnBase system directly from an iPad, iPhone, Android, BlackBerry, or Windows phone. Okay, so these are specialized apps that run on the phone. You can even go and download them today from the store. So if you want to go right to the App Store or the Google Play Store, you can download the OnBase app right away. Okay, you can do it now if you'd like. And I put the Surface on here. There's not a special app for that. Since the Surface runs a Windows operating system, it can just access the traditional way through a client. So the Unity client, for instance, or the web browser, you'll access the data right through that. You don't need a specialized client. You don't need a different license. Okay? So iPads, there's been some challenges on, how do we secure, how do we, work with offline. There's not a file structure that we can really access, a file system. So there's always been some IT concerns. So the Surface is kind of another way around that. Since it's a Windows operating system, it can join a domain, all these other things. Now you can put the same security on it that you would a normal workstation, but yet when I walk away, it kind of acts as a tablet for myself, and I can do what I want on that device, but still access that information. Okay, so these are some of the devices and things we have that we can access information on today. So what I wanted to do is just kind of walk through a couple scenarios of accessing some of that content from these devices to actually show you some hands-on, because PowerPoints are only so effective, right? So we need to do some hands-on here and get people to play around with some devices. So the two I'm gonna use today are kind of the most common. I'll use an iPad, since that is still kind of the premier tablet that, even because it came to the market first, essentially most people have adopted that early on. And then I'll show you from the Android device. I'll access some content here from my phone and show you what the mobile app would look like on that particular device. So in regards to the iPad, I'm going to simulate logging in as a police officer, and I'm going to just take a photo of the group here, and I can submit that right to prosecutor's office. So maybe they had requested additional photographs of a crime scene, and I can go ahead and take those right from my device and submit it all in one action right over to their office. Okay? Another thing we'll do is I'll log in as a judge using the OnBase app on the iPad, and I'll be able to sign documents. I'll review, I'll look through my workflow queue, and then I'm going to actually find a protection order that somebody had submitted to me, and I'm going to sign it from my iPad. Okay? And then from the Android, I'll log in as an end user. I'll just show you what the app looks like on that device and be able to actually submit a form. So you may have heard talk of Unity forms. and other ways of creating forms very quickly. So I'll fill out a Unity form right online, right from my phone, and go ahead and submit that, and it will automatically go right into a workflow process in the back end in the OnBase world. And then I will simulate a constituent here who wanted to requested a certified document. Okay? So once that request has been facilitated, I would get an email back to me saying, here's your certified document with a link and essentially a QR code. So I'll just use an app on my phone to scan the QR code, and I'll open that document right from my device. Okay? So those are the kind of scenarios that I'm going to put in play today. So I do have to do a couple switches around here to make sure you can see what I'm doing. Okay? So I have an iPad here. Okay, so this is just my iPad device, okay? And so I'll show you up on the screen, but just so you know, I will be kind of just touching around on here. So a lot of times it's kind of hard to see exactly what I'm touching on the screen, so I'll make sure I try to talk to it very clearly. So the first one is I'm going to log in again as a police officer. So for those of you who've heard of our True Filing law enforcement portal, I'm going to go and log into that by launching my Safari browser, just a standard web browser down in the bottom corner. Okay, I have it set up to take me right to the particular site. So now I need to put in my credentials. Okay, so this is the law enforcement portal. So the point of this is an officer could have a laptop in the car. They could do it from their phone device or something like an iPad here. So you can walk right out to a scene. You can walk right up to the witnesses and things like that and take information and be able to put it right here into the device. So I'm going to go open up one of these cases here. So once I select one I'm working on, I can see all my case information. I can open up any of these forms if I need to fill out some information on here. And these are some of the data fields that I would need to either update or add information to. Okay. These forms are actually info path forms for any of those IT people that are care to know how these were created. Okay. So what I have is all the information, and maybe the prosecutor had said to me, hey, I need a photograph, or I need another piece of evidence, I need another witness statement, I need something for you to do additionally and resubmit down to our office. So at the very bottom, it might be tough to read, but down in the evidence section, I do have a police report and a criminal history document already submitted. Okay? But I'm going to go hit the first button on there which says add evidence. Okay? So now I need to select what type of document I'm doing here. Let me try a different one if that one's not working. Okay. I guess I could zoom in. So here's where the various documents are. So here's a police report that's been uploaded. And all of my information. If I want to add any of these, I can click these links to be able to go out and access that document. Looks like it's not going to cooperate today. Here's just a photograph that I took earlier. And then you'll have links up here that say send to the PA's office. It's kind of up on the top right, so when you have additional information you've taken or added, these links will appear, and you can click on those and it will route that information right down to the prosecutor's office in this case, since it's connected directly to the OnBase system, the workflow that the prosecutors would be using in this particular case. Okay? So we can't connect with this one, so we will move on to the next piece.
Can I ask you a question real quickly while you're going through this?
Yep.
So you take a photograph. Let's say you take a photograph of an item that could, I mean, does OnBase have the ability to index based on words that are in an image?
It does. So once I'd submit it here, it would go to, and there'd be a back-end process that can perform that OCR.
I'm out and I'm in Florida, and I have, I got a receipt or let's say an invoice, let's say with me it's a paper document, take a picture of that invoice, go into my mobile app, submit that image through. Is it going to go through the workflow based on obviously the image itself?
Yep, it can go right in. So there's the advanced capture piece you'd have on back end, by the servers running. This will go right into the system and into essentially a scan queue, which could have additional processing, which could be at OCR and do the classification indexing automatically. So again, you could minimize any type of keying or things you would have to do at this particular level. Okay.
Excuse me, can I ask another question?
Yep.
How are you connecting back? Is it through a VPN tunnel? Is it another OnBase?
I am VPN'd in, yes, right now. So once my Wi-Fi is connected, I can establish a VPN connection right back to the office. And that's how I'm getting into the system. This one here, I'm just going through standard internet browser. So this one, I don't have to have any VPN, but when I log in next as a judge, I will have the VPN being utilized at that point. So this one right now, it's not. It's just through standard HTTPS transfer.
May I add to that, Terry? So in this case, it is going through VPN tunnel, but depending on your network infrastructure, your security infrastructure, it doesn't have to go through a VPN tunnel. Obviously, going through a VPN tunnel provides additional layer of security that your infrastructure team might want. But there are ways to just expose this, and I think it was talked about, if it was talked about this morning or not, device security. So within the next release of OnBase 13, these mobile devices can be secured so that I can say expose access really to the public internet, but only pick certain devices by their signature to allow them in. So sometimes a VPN works, but if that VPN is not an option, you can definitely still access all this stuff. You just want to work with your IT infrastructure because it does involve a few more steps from a security standpoint.
Well, based on platform, can you utilize like a policy server, like with Apple devices, they have an ASN policy server that you can integrate to?
I want to talk a little bit more offline about what we can and can't do, but.
Okay. So I'm going to log in now using the OnBase app. That was just going through a web browser. Well, you see up in the top left here is the OnBase app. So once you download it from the store, you'll see that particular icon. So I'm going to go ahead and select it. And if you look at the very top, you'll see I do have my VPN connected. You see a little VPN icon. So I'm going to log in as Judge Joe Brown here. Okay. So what I have for the judge is just the workflow portion exposed right now. So this is a set of queues that I can access. If you're familiar with OnBase Workflow at all, you'll see a set of queues that I have permissions to access. The number count is showing me how many documents are in each of those kind of baskets that I need to work on. So right now in my inbox, there's 2 documents that I can look at and review. If you select on any of those documents, it will open up and I can view that information. At the very top, you'll see little icons so I can view keyword data. I can view notes. These are those sticky notes, annotations. I can apply new ones. There's a little plus sign to apply a new one if I want to add a note myself. Related information and tasks to execute from workflow. So what I'll do here is I'll actually log in to the signature queue. And I have 4 different documents. So I do have some protection orders and a proposed order in this particular queue. I'll just select this bottom one. So somebody had submitted this protection order to me, and as a judge now I want to review and sign off on this document. So obviously you can zoom in just like you can pinch zooming and stuff with any type of touchscreen device. I can simply scroll through the pages very quickly if I wanted to get to a certain page. Down here on page 6, this is where we're going to apply our signature. Okay, right where the judicial officer goes. It knows that location. And again, if I wanted to view some of this information, I got the keyword data. Okay, as many keywords as are exposed to me. Again, any notes, I can click on these notes, view it in full screen. I can add a new note if I wanted to. These are the types of notes that I can add that have been granted to me. Related information, so if I want to view related documents, I can view multiple documents at the same time, so one on top of the other. The top one I open purposely because it's an electronic form. It's not a Unity form, it's just a kind of traditional E-form, just to show you that you can still have traditional E-forms exposed to these clients, and then I can go and put in whatever information if I wanted to. Even do case notes. So a judge could be at home putting case note information into some of these documents he's reviewing before the hearings that are coming up. Okay? So essentially what I'm going to do here is I want to sign this particular document. Okay? And my signature is going to go on to page 6. Let me scroll down again and just show you. There's no signature on it yet, but if I go to my tasks, which is the little clipboard in the very top corner, and I execute that, these are the tasks now that I can perform. I can add a confidential note, I can reroute it, deny this request, append it, which will move it to a different queue, or I can sign it using my device here. So I'm obviously going to use the bottom one, TrueSign Mobile. Go ahead and sign this document. So it's going to apply my signature and refresh the document all in one action. So if I scroll actually back down to page 6, now you can see my signature applied. I'll zoom in into that area with my data around it. So this is utilizing TrueSign in the background kind of on the server, so I can apply my signature and have it affixed with the obviously the current time and date information right on that document. And then I might want to select this and send it to the clerk. Yep.
How did you pick the location under document?
We're going to use, just like we use anchors, sign here flags, things like that. So though it's not visible, we know the location of this particular document we can apply it. It's a coordinates essentially on this document. So I'm using coordinates to put it. So every document may have a different coordinates, or an anchor could be put on the document, either automatically or again a clerk sometimes will put an anchor point on there. Okay, so I'm going to mark a note on here. I'm going to hit it save. It's going to route now out of my queue and back to the next step of the workflow, and now I only have the 3 documents left in my queue to work on. Okay, so the point is being able to access it from anywhere. Okay, so you can be sitting in your backyard, on your boat, wherever you have internet, and all I did was had a VPN connection connected up, and I can get into my workflow using the iPad mobile app. Okay. Yes, question.
Is there any difference in speed between using mobile and using OnBase for case management on the server?
There is, mobile has depends on the connection. 4G is very fast now. You won't really notice a lag. I've done demos off of this when I don't have internet, so I just tether through this and do demos right off my laptop, and it works fine. So 4G works very well, preferred you got a good signal and everything like that. 3G, you'll notice a difference. It's going to be a little slower. And you'll even see with this, when I plug in, it'll actually display just the keywords first, the data, just to save that time so you're not waiting for a large document to open. And if you want to see the document, you just hit the button, and then it will render the document for you.
Should also depend on that VPN time too, right?
Yeah. And obviously, other considerations, lots of considerations with the internet, the bandwidth that you have, and what's in place, your infrastructure. Yes?
Another question. Does TrueSign Mobile require a direct connection to the app server, or do you just need to be able to see the
The device is connecting right to the app server. So,
you need a VPN connection?
yeah. As it stands today. Any other questions before we kind of move to the next device? Okay. So I'm going to
Apple guy or you an Android guy?
I have an Android, so that's all I've had. I do have an iPad at home, so I do use that.
Just curious.
Question? No? So I have hand. Okay, I'm going to escape out of here. Switch back to my computer so you can see what I'm doing on the phone. Okay. All right. So this is my my phone. Okay. So you're just looking at my main desktop screen of my phone. And what I'm going to do is just kind of scroll over to the OnBase app. So you'll see the OnBase icon on here, just like you would on any. So I'm going to select that particular option. So on the phone, these are the kind of features that I can access on this one. I can get to queries to run and search for some documents, access my workflow, and I can also fill out new forms right here, which is going to be the Unity forms that I have set up. And settings here is just where you put in the app server address. Okay, so what you could do with mobile apps is you can create your own app so that the settings are in there. So when people download it, it has all those settings and they don't have to worry about it. So from an IT perspective, they just download the app and it's automatically connected to your app server. Okay, so you don't have to worry about going in there and doing that. Okay, so let's say I want to fill off a new form. I'm going to select that new form option here in the bottom. I do have to log in. And here I'm not VPN'd in or anything. I'm kind of just making a secured web call right through the app server. Okay. So the only form I can fill out that I have is a time off request. Okay, so we'll show you that one. I'm going to select it from the list. So this is kind of a Unity form. All right. That shows up here. I could turn my phone this way, but it doesn't turn on the screen. So it does look better. If you wanted to turn it right, you can turn it. Obviously flips. So the whole app itself doesn't spin, so it doesn't render that way. So I'll leave it this way for the demo here. So there's some basic form. Okay, not a lot of fields on here, but for a simple form to fill off something like this, it's enough information. You'll see the stars on here telling me those are required, right? So I have to submit those. And if you actually, I can zoom in so you can see some of the fields. The employee is a drop down for me. I could put in just a name or my employee number. Or if I say I'm Jason Knight, I'm going to select my name from the list. And you'll see it'll make that database call just like it would when you're indexing a document, that database lookup or that autofill if you're familiar with the OnBase lingo. And it filled in my department, my manager. So now when I submit it, it's going to route right to Justin Ferentz here for them to approve my time off requests. Okay? So I'm going to just minimize a little bit here so you can see, but I do need to fill in some information. So some of the things with Unity Forms is these calendars are just automatic out of the box. As soon as you make it a date field, you automatically get a calendar pop-up, so you don't have to worry about that. If any of you guys know HTML or JavaScripting, you know the amount of code it takes to put in just a calendar pop-up is pretty involved. So I'm going to say I want to take Friday off. So I'm going to pick the date. Pick the same day because I only want one day off. Now I'm going to select the type. I will say I'm going to use a floating holiday. And I'm going to take 8 hours. Okay, and I can put in a comment if I wanted to, and I'm just going to hit save. Go ahead and submit this form into the system. Okay, it was successfully submitted. Would I like to create another one? I will say no. Okay, and if I kind of go back into my workflow area now, select the workflow option. So for various users, this is what workflow would look like. These are my queues that I have access to. So this is the Android app, how it kind of presents workflow. And the time off requests are down here at the bottom. So if I expand that queue, so these are the various queues. If I go to the very bottom, it's probably the one that we just submitted here on June 12th today. So if I go ahead and open that, So what it does with the phone devices, it'll display keywords as the main document to start, just because it's faster. Okay? Especially if you have a 30-page document, you don't want to have to sit here and wait for that to render. But the very first icon at the top here is display the document. So you can click that at any point, and then it will go and retrieve the full document out of the system if you needed to see it. Sometimes decisions can be made on the keywords alone. So again, to save some time, it's going to allow us to do that. And then the tasks, again, from the next on the clipboard, allow me to approve, deny, or what have you on this particular one. So I can go ahead and approve a request for myself. And here it's forcing a password again, so nobody could just, even though I did have to log in OnBase once, you can force them to put in their password again. So if I left my phone logged in, somebody can't just steal it and approve all their requests. And okay. So there you have it. If I go back to my waiting, it's down to 18 now, so the 19th one routed out back and will return information back to that individual, letting them know it's been approved, and obviously some other information would probably go to the HR department or wherever for them to actually log it in the system. Okay, so that's a little bit about what workflow can look like. And then custom queries are here as well, so any of those queries that you would have access to in your normal system can be exposed right to the mobile devices, and you could go ahead and view any of that information. So you click one of those and then put in any of those keywords and perform a search to find documents that match the criteria. Okay. So here's an invoice. Again, displays keywords first. If there's any notes, you can access the notes and add one here, and then hit the display at the top for it to actually render the document itself. Okay, so here's a 2-page invoice. I can use the arrows at the top to toggle the pages. Get to page 2 of this particular document. And then again, with pinch zooming and all the other features available, you can navigate through and zoom in on different areas of the particular document. Okay, I got one more scenario, and then we'll see if there's any other questions floating around. So what I'm going to do here is on my, I have an email here, so maybe I asked for a certified copy of whatever. Maybe it was a court document, maybe it was a death certificate. And so utilizing True Certify, they were able to certify the document electronically and send me back an email with that information. So now I can go to that site and put in the information I need, or I can just scan it with my barcode app. Okay, so I have a barcode app on here. Okay. It's right up here in the top. So I'm going to click on that barcode app, and then I'm just going to scan this okay, and there it scanned it, it read it successfully. This is the URL with all the data in there of how to access the actual document that is in the system. So I am just going to click the link. Okay, it's downloading the document right now into my phone. You'll see at the very top, this telling me it's downloading, that this link had taken me to. So now if I just kind of pull this down, here's the download that just completed. I'm just going to select that off the top of the list. And then using a native app, Quick Office, I'm able to open the actual document that was certified from the court. Okay, you can see it on here. And then this is a PDF, so you can toggle through. If I scroll down here, This is the actual document that was requested. And the top part is the cover page that gets generated as part of the certification process. Okay? So the point is, if I needed to get a document quick, I could be anywhere in the world and essentially receive that certified document back from the clerk or the court, whoever performed that request. So I can submit even an electronic form using a Unity form asking for a certified document. They can, if there's a cost involved, obviously the credit card information can be handled. And then that request can be facilitated with a quick workflow action and automatically route that information back to my email where I can now access the document from this device. Okay. Any questions on that? I know we have probably about 5 or 10 minutes here left. Yes?
I had a question about the e-forms option in the mobile app screen. You mentioned you were accessing a Unity form. Can it also access e-forms?
It can. It can access e-forms. Unity forms are a little easier because they're essentially a URL link to be able to access them. So they're actually easier to put in place now, which is regular e-forms. There's a bit of code that has to be put onto your the website or the portal where they're going to access it. And regular e-forms just need a little more testing and things involved to make sure it does render the same on every device. Unity forms are a little more standardized, so they're going to render pretty much universal across devices. So that's going to be a platform choice. But any other questions? Excited? Good, there we go. Yes?
The mobile apps that you demonstrated, was it OnBase 12 or OnBase 13?
This is on 12. I haven't done anything on 13, so. Okay. Well, I'll be around for a while if there are other questions, so feel free to come up if you didn't want to ask it in front of everyone. And thank you guys for coming.